It began as just another casting announcement. Two names that made headlines the moment they were paired together. Dylan Wang. Shen. At first, it was just work. Two professionals, two rising stars, brought together by fate and a well-written script. But no one could have predicted what would follow. The moment they stood in front of the camera for the first screen test, something shifted in the room. The director paused. The crew exchanged glances. Even the silence between their lines felt alive. Heavy, magnetic, unexplainable. Some called it chemistry, but others whispered that it felt too real. He looked at her like he already knew her. She smiled at him like she had been waiting her whole life for that moment. And from then on, every scene they filmed together carried an emotion that couldn't be scripted. When he brushed her hair away in that rainy scene, his hand lingered longer than it should have. When she cried on his shoulder, the tears weren't acting, they were real. Because somehow, their hearts had started to blur the line between fiction and truth. They tried to laugh it off. They joked on set, teased each other, pretended it was all for the cameras. But everyone could see it. The way their eyes met even when the director yelled, "Cut!" The way their smiles softened. Just a little too naturally. Fans noticed it first. Clips went viral. Comments flooded social media. This isn't acting. They look like they're really in love. Something's going on here. And maybe the fans were right. Behind the scenes, there were moments the world never saw. Late-night rehearsals that turned into long conversations. Shared meals in empty studios after everyone had gone home. Quiet laughter echoing through hallways when the cameras stopped rolling. One night, after a particularly emotional scene, Shen couldn't stop crying. It wasn't part of the script anymore. The scene had hit too close. The heartbreak, the goodbye, the silence that followed. She walked off set, trying to hide her tears. But Dylan followed. He found her sitting by herself, still wearing the costume from the scene, her hands trembling. Without saying a word, he sat beside her. He didn't tell her to stop crying. He didn't try to comfort her with empty lines. He just stayed there, quiet, steady, real. When she finally looked at him, their eyes met in that fragile space between acting and truth. And for a moment, the world disappeared. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, even though she wasn't. But he saw through it. He always did. They never talked about that night again. But after that, something in their performances changed. Every look, every touch, every unscripted pause, it carried the weight of something deeper. The director noticed it too. He once said in an interview, "I didn't have to tell them how to play the scene. I just had to make sure the cameras were rolling. They already knew." And maybe that's what made their show unforgettable. It wasn't perfect dialogue or clever direction. It was two hearts quietly speaking the truth, even when they weren't supposed to. When the drama aired, the world fell in love with them. Their scenes were replayed millions of times. Fans analyzed every glance, every touch. And when the final episode ended, everyone said the same thing. They belong together. But real life is never as simple as the stories we watch. As fame grew, so did the walls around them. Schedules pulled them in opposite directions. Interviews filled with carefully crafted answers. And rumors, endless rumors, tried to define what they were. When asked about her co-star, Shen smiled politely. "He's a good friend," she said. But her eyes told a different story. When Dylan was asked about her, he paused before answering. "She's special," he said. Just one word. But it was enough for everyone listening to know that there was more. Time passed. They moved on to different projects, different lives. But that spark, that invisible thread, never truly disappeared. At award shows, when they crossed paths, the air seemed to shift again. A simple glance, a shared laugh, and suddenly the room felt smaller. Fans captured every second. Because somehow, no matter how much time passed, that chemistry remained untouched. Years later, during a magazine interview, the topic came up again. The reporter asked Dylan about that first project, the one that started it all. He smiled quietly. "That drama changed everything for me," he said. The reporter pressed further. Because of the success? He shook his head. Because of who I met while filming it. That one sentence was enough to reignite everything. Fans began revisiting old clips, frame by frame. And once again, people asked the same question. Was it ever just acting? Shen Yu never commented. But she didn't need to. Her silence spoke more than any interview could. One day, during a live event, a fan asked her directly, "If you could relive one moment from your past dramas, which one would it be?" She thought for a long time. Then she smiled softly and said, "The last scene I filmed with Dylan." The audience gasped. Because they all remembered that scene, the quiet goodbye in the rain, the one that made everyone cry. She didn't explain further. But the look in her eyes said enough. Behind the glamour, behind the noise, there was something that had once been real. Something that no spotlight could fake. A few months later, a behind-the-scenes clip resurfaced online. It showed Dylan standing just off camera while Shen Yu filmed a solo scene. He wasn't needed there. His part had already wrapped. But he stayed anyway, watching quietly. When the director called "cut," she turned to him instinctively, as if looking for his reaction first. He smiled. She smiled back. And that small, unscripted moment broke the internet all over again. People said, "That look, that's not acting." And they were right. Sometimes, the most beautiful stories aren't written in scripts. They're found in the spaces between takes. In the stolen glances, the shared laughter, the words that never make it to the final edit. Maybe that's why, even now, their fans can't let go. Because deep down, everyone felt it too, that what they witnessed on screen wasn't performance, but confession. Years later, during a reunion show, fate brought them together again. The host smiled mischievously, asking if they remembered their famous rain scene. They both laughed, but there was a flicker of something in their eyes. When the clip played on the big screen, they sat side by side, watching their younger selves. The emotions on their faces, the trembling hands, the quiet "I'll miss you." All of it came rushing back. As the audience cheered, Shen Yu turned to him and whispered, "It still feels the same." He looked at her, a small smile forming. "Some things never fade," he replied. The cameras caught the moment. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. But once again, it reminded the world why their chemistry could never be replicated. Because it wasn't just acting. It was two souls who had once collided so deeply that even years couldn't erase the memory of that impact. After the show, they went their separate ways again. Quietly, respectfully, like they always did.